That's Hunter.
All right, guys, this is the Logic Pro for iPad beginners tutorial. Let's get right into it. We're gonna come over here and hit this plus sign once you have Logic Pro loaded up. And then you see you have all of these options to download all of these packs. If you have enough space on your iPad, I recommend you just go ahead and download them all. It's about 15 gigs. So we're gonna come over here to tracks. And then we're going to do a MIDI track to start off. So you tap this drawer, and now this is your browser, everything on the left-hand side. So you'll be able to browse through your instrument patches, audio patches, loops, samples, presets, and patterns. So what we can do is come over here to instrument patches, and here's where you can get familiar with all of the sounds. You have these tags or categories, which I think is dope. So you can navigate through these pretty easily. Just go ahead and swipe over to the left or to the right and find an instrument to your taste. So let's start off with some drums in this case. Boom. Now you have all of these drums. So what we're going to do right now is hit this little piano icon on the bottom right hand corner, and you'll see that the drum machine designer comes right up for you. You can actually play these pads. Now what's unique about these pads is when you tap on the upper part of the pad, you have the higher velocity, but when you tap on the lower side of the pad, you get a lower velocity. Very convenient. So what we're going to do right now is learn our transport controls now that we have some sound. So right here, we're starting with the project over to the left, which is the name of your current project. You can change that. We have our rewind, fast forward. Then we have our go back to the beginning. Then we have our play, our record, our loop cycle. And here's our bars and beats, minutes and seconds, tempo, time signature, and the key that we're in, our metronome count off, and then our metronome that clicks throughout. Then we have our undo. Then you have this question mark here if you have any questions about whatever functions you're trying to do. And then we have this little circle icon here. And this is how we'll be able to customize things. This is how you can get to your settings and customize your control bar. So what I've done is I've added a couple of things to my control bar. So you have your transport. You can basically toggle on whatever you want. And in the display, I did beats in time. So over here, we have our loop cycle where you can have like an Ableton approach and record your own cells. I like to do more of the traditional linear recording where I can see the timeline of everything so I can start to arrange. Then we have our automation, and this is going to be important to us when we start doing more advanced things where we can control the volume and automate all kinds of different effects. So we have our trim tool, which is going to be the native. Then we have our loop tool where if we have a region, we're going to do all of these things. We're going to walk through them. We have a region, we can just swipe over to the right and loop it. Then we have our split tool where we can split regions. This is going to be really important to us. And then we have our stretch tool. This right here is going to be how we're going to select multiple regions. And then we have like these two little paper tools. So when we start working with regions, we'll be able to duplicate those. Now we have our grid mode, so we can have things snap to grid, which I prefer. This is going to be essential to us when we're quantizing things from the grid. And then we have these little three dots over here, and this will allow us to repeat cycle selection, cut cycle selection, basically be able to work from this up here. We'll be able to slice and operate within wherever we set this cycle range. And you can just tap on that. You can see it's grayed out. You tap on it and then you can set it to however you want. You can stretch this, and this will allow us to cycle or repeat or loop a certain amount of measures. Now, the shortcut for this is the letter C. If you have a Magic Keyboard, boom, that's just like Logic, and then hit C again. Now let's get into the inspector window. This is basically how we're going to manipulate and edit our audio and MIDI. This is where we're going to be able to quantize. But if you click this up here, you can see you can go to region defaults, and then here is where we'll be able to quantize everything. Now with all that stuff out of the way, let's start to record. The shortcut to record is the letter R. You get a count in that we set, and then it begins to record. You have to turn on the metronome here to continue to hear the metronome cycle through. And then we're going to change the tempo. Now all we have to do to change it is tap where the tempo is. And we have this little knob that I like. And you can cycle the knob over to the left or over to the right to get the tempo that you want. Or you could use these arrows, or you can type the tempo in by hitting the number sign right over here. We're going to hit this little icon right over here, which is this circle with these little lines going through it. This will give us basically a whole zoomed out view of all of the sounds that we want to navigate. So we're going to hit over here to Oak Felder. We're going to look for some drums. Also use this tag as well. So what we're going to do is use the acoustic bump. So we're just going to tap that. And then now it's in what we call a track stack. So you can hit this arrow over here and you can see all of the individual instruments that make up this track stack. So let's come over here to this piano. Let's hit the record button right over here. Faster way to get to the editor is just to use this pencil tool down here. Now we hit a hi-hat that we didn't want up here, so we can get that and just delete it. And so how we can delete that is tap on it and just hit delete. Tap over here, go to edit, and then go to quantize. And now we have our quantize is set to off by default. Now we're going to do a little bit of a swing fill. So I'm going to do 16 with about a D16. And these quantized values are based off like old machines, like an MPC 60 type swing. Now let's listen to how this sounds. Yeah. All right. So what we're going to do now is come out of here. Let's hit the pencil tool. And then what we're going to do is tap this, and then we're going to go to convert, and then we're going to go to separate by note pitch. What that means is it's going to take it from the main track stack folder region and it's going to move it to the individual one shots within the track stack. Now we're going to use a MIDI controller this time. So now we're going to use the hi-hats, and we're going to do this a little bit differently this time. We're going to use the step sequencer, tap on the empty space where that track is on the region. Now we're going to do create pattern region. So what we're going to do is tap on it, and now we can move this region over. Just hit the pencil tool again. And now you can see our steps. Right now it's set to the top circle that's highlighted. We're going to tap again, and now we can see the amount of notes that we want to do. So right now it's set to 16th notes. We're going to change this from 16th notes to 8th notes. And now we can simply just take our finger, tap, and slide all over to the right. And now we have a hi-hat pattern already made for us. Then we have this little fader icon over here. This will allow us to see the actual fader for that particular track. And this is going to be important for us when we get ready to record audio. We can do like a little mix. So we can turn the hi-hat down right here. Going to pull up our sounds again. We're going to come up here, close the drum folder up. And now we have the whole screen back available to us. What we're going to do now is add some tracks on top of this. All right, now what you can do, which is cool, is you could pull up that keyboard tool again, and you can actually play chords on the pad. You have different play surfaces, which is dope. And you can access those by hitting this little keyboard on the left. And you can have the keyboard, drum pads, fretboard, chord strips. Let's check out the chord strips. which is really nice. And you can change this from finger to the pencil, which is the edit tool. And you can change the value of each chord. We're going to use our MIDI controller, come up with a progression. So right now we have the trim tool, which is what I like to use to trim this up. So we're going to tap, we're going to take the left edge of it, and then we're just going to drag over to the left. Now remember those tools that I showed you here. We're going to use the two papers tool. We're just going to take this and drag it over to the right, and that will duplicate the same performance. Now what we can do to highlight both of these regions is we can tap and hold and then highlight over the both of these. And if we want to repeat this again, we still have the duplicate tool on. We can take this and drag both of these over to the right. Now to undo, if you mess up, it's going to be Command Z, or you can hit this arrow right up here on the top right hand corner to undo again. Now, if you have a Magic Keyboard, you can click on it, hit Option, and drag it over to the right as well to duplicate it. Let's record this bass line. We're gonna come over here to loops, and then I'm going to type in vinyl. And here we go. We have some noise vinyl, which is exactly what I want. So you can preview it by hitting the play sign like that. So what we're going to do now is drag and drop this in. So we're going to take this and we're going to drag this over to the right. And we're going to basically drag this just as an audio file. Yeah. Let's mix it down a little bit. Now to make it simple for this video, we can just go ahead and trim the back of that. And let's just make it an even 4 bars, just like the rest of the arrangement. Now let's have some fun and record some audio over this. We're gonna hit the plus sign. Now we're gonna do audio, but before we hit the center, we're gonna stop for a second. Then we're gonna hit these 3 little dots. Now we can customize our format. I currently have my Behringer X32 plugged into my iPad via Type-C. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change this format to mono because we have just one instrument, one input. So for you, whatever interface you're using, go ahead and select the input that your mic is plugged into. For me, it's going to be input 14. Hit the record button to enable the track. So make sure your levels is good on your interface. And now let's just record some hype vocals. Yeah, 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 yeah. So now we're gonna do a nice little rough mix. So what we're gonna do right now is get these faders, these little fader icons right over here. And here's where you'll be able to see your mixer. And if you scroll up, you can see the plugins that's already on, your instruments up here on the top. So what we can do now is blow this mixer up by just taking this on the top right hand corner, these 2 lines, blow it all the way up to the top. And now we can get a good view of everything. Yeah, 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 yeah. Let's add some reverb to our vocal. Hit this plus sign. And here's where we can add plugins. So we're going to hit the plus sign on the sends, go to bus, and we can see they already gave us a reverb. So let's hit that. And then there's a little knob that you can just turn up and down, or you could just tap it and get a bigger knob. Let's listen to this. Yeah, 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 yeah. All right, and that's an easy way to add reverb that's already selected for you, and they use the chroma verb. So we can tap that and hit show details, and this will give us a snapshot of that reverb. Now, if we want to see the entire reverb, we can come over here, tap these 2 lines, And now we can see all of the controls of the reverb. Come over here to audio effects. We're going to hit a plus sign. And we're going to add some EQ. We'll just make it simple. Use the channel EQ. Hit this knob icon. This is going to be a new one for us. And now we can see the channel strip already laid out for us up here, which is nice. Tap that, tap again, and now you get a snapshot view, or you could tap the two lines and see the whole thing. Yeah, 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 yeah. And we're gonna add a little bit of reverb. Yeah, 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 yeah. So what we're gonna do now is do a bounce to get this from your iPad to listening to it on your phone. So what I like to do is do it by the cycle region. To cycle around our arrangement, I like to give it a little bit of time after it ends, just to, if there's any reverb or delays, give those time to end. Come over here and tap to where it says Project 3. There's a down arrow. And now we can go to Export. Now we can name this project. Cool. Now you can see that the project length is already set from our start and end position from the cycle loop. Then what we're going to do is select what type of file we want to send this as. Now in the professional world, we want to send this high res, which is uncompressed. So we can hit the letter I, and I typically like to do it as a wave, and we can do it 24-bit and 44.1, or you can change it to the session, which is 48, and then we can simply hit share, and now we can say where we want this to go. Now guys, this is just an introductory into Logic Pro for iPad. If you guys would like to see more videos, please let me know in the comments below. And if you guys want to see me make a nice hip hop beat using Logic Pro for iPad, check out this video right over here.